leaders who can say, hey, if you stay boss, then this is going to happen to the company. If you keep teaching this way, this is what's going to happen to the students, whatever. People don't like that sometimes. And so the pattern recognizers, sometimes we're silenced, sometimes we are invalidated, because it's easier for us to look silly, it's easier for them to make us look silly than for others to take responsibility, maybe for things that they can't see or understand. So I feel like that as autistic people, and that's part of why I love this community, and I love this channel and the things that I get to teach about and talk about, because truly, I want to tell you, I feel like autistic individuals hold a beautiful key to a more sustainable, supportive future where people are looked at and considered as individuals, where people's unique patterns are supported and nourished, where there's more accommodations. When you help disabled and differently abled communities, it ends up benefiting all of society. I feel like the more we're able to integrate these things that we know, the more we're going to start to see shifts in our society for the better. The more we trust our intuition, the more we trust, hey, I really do need to rest today. I could push through and I could work really hard, but my body's saying, I gotta slow down. Those small, I'm gonna get into a tangent here because I think it's important. Those very small shifts of like, I'm gonna lay on the couch for 20 minutes instead of completing another, for me, like instead of making another social media post, whatever. These really small, subtle shifts of choosing to integrate like our bodies and minds, to return back to our body and like the wisdom of our body and our natural rhythms. Those slight subtle shifts are monumental. It's like, I don't know if this is the right thing, the butterfly effect, like where one small shift changes everything. And the tangent that I wanted to get monumental. These really small, subtle shifts of choosing, I gotta slow down. Those small, and I'm gonna get into another tangent here because I think it's important. Those very small shifts of like, I'm gonna lay on the couch for 20 minutes instead of completing another, for me, like instead of making another social media post, whatever. These really small, subtle shifts of choosing to integrate like our bodies and minds, to return back to our body and like the wisdom of our body and our natural rhythms, those slight subtle shifts are monumental. It's like, I don't know if this is the right thing, the butterfly effect, like where one small shift changes everything. And the tangent that I wanted to get on is I think this is the way that I think this is a form of resistance, right? If you're unhappy with some of the injustice going on in the world, it can feel like we are helpless, we're headed. Guess what? The people in control who want things to stay the way they are don't like the pattern recognizers who can say, hey, if you stay, boss, then this is going to happen to the company. If you keep teaching this way, this is what's going to happen to the students, whatever. People don't like that sometimes. And so the pattern recognizers, sometimes we're silenced, sometimes we are invalidated because it's easier for us to look silly. It's easier for them to make us look silly than for others to take responsibility, maybe for things that they can't see or understand. So I feel like that as autistic people, and that's part of why I love this community and I love this channel and the things that I get to teach about and talk about, because truly, I want to tell you, I feel like autistic individuals hold a beautiful key to a more sustainable, supportive future where people are looked at and considered as individuals, where people's unique patterns are supported and nourished, where there's more accommodations. When you help disabled and differently abled communities, it ends up benefiting all of society. I feel like the more we're able to integrate these things that we know, where there's more accommodations, when you help disabled and differently abled communities, it ends up nourished, where there's more accommodations. When you help disabled and differently abled communities, it ends up benefiting all of society. I feel like the more we're able to integrate these things that we know, the more we're going to start to see shifts in our society for the better. The more we trust our intuition, the more we trust, hey, I really do need to rest today. I could push through and I could work really hard, but my body's saying, I got to slow down. Those small, I'm going to get into another tangent here because I think it's important. Those very small shifts of like, I'm going to lay on the couch for 20 minutes instead of completing another, for me, like instead of making another social media post, whatever. These really small, subtle shifts of choosing to integrate like our bodies and minds, to return back to our body and like the wisdom of our body and our natural rhythms, those slight subtle shifts are monumental. It's like, I don't know if this is the right thing, the butterfly effect, like where one small shift changes everything. And the tangent that I wanted to get on is I think this.
What I learned at Ananda is I had no idea how to rest. As well, the systems in place. An individual with autism. There was an injurious I'll never speak bad about Ananda. Though I haven't a fucking pass! Yeah. I have. I did that. I did that shit. bullshit. I'll do that bullshit. And I'll do it again. That's great. You know how good it feels to take a shit. I don't have to tell you. I don't have to tell any. I don't have to go around telling, hey, you know, it would feel great. You just let it go. I don't. If somebody came up to me on the streets being like, hey, you know what's great? You gotta do what I gotta do. I don't have to do what you gotta do. Sorry, no, I don't. Hey, I mean, thanks for the offer. Sometimes that works. Oh my God, I love tea. I love caffeine so much. Got a dirty screen.
This is the way that I think this is a form of resistance, right? If you're unhappy with some of the injustice going on in the world, it can feel like we are helpless. How do we make change on a large scale when people more powerful than us are creating kind of sweeping decisions that affect things that feel beyond our control? Rest, kindness, gentleness is resistance. And do not for a second think that those things are too small to make a difference. Those are the type of earth-shattering, groundbreaking decisions that over time, and especially compounded within communities like ours, like the neurodivergent community, you can start to really see widespread change. But it requires courage. It requires tapping back into what you know is true for you and leaning into that, not letting somebody else tell you what you want and what you need. This can even be, and this might be hard for some of us to hear right now, but you can make these subtle shifts and start to feel more autonomous and more empowered by making these shifts in your relationships. So whether that's a familial relationship or a friendship or a romantic partnership, you standing up and trusting what you actually want and need. There's obviously a back and forth in relationships where we give and receive, but I feel like, generally speaking, that a lot of times autistic individuals tend to give to the point of depletion, right? It can be hard for us to monitor our boundaries until we've gone too far and then we're in chronic burnout. So what I'm trying to say is, as autistic people, to trust when we need to rest, to trust what's too much for us, to trust that it's not selfish to set boundaries to protect yourself. Emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally, whatever that looks like for you, it's not selfish to communicate that in your relationship. And so even small statements like, no, that doesn't feel right for me, or can you give me some time to get back to you about that, right? Just these small little boundaries that we can set when we're not ready to make a decision or not ready to, I don't know, just have a conversation, whatever it might be. Or if you know in your heart that there's an emphatic no that you need to give somebody, but you feel guilt because you feel like you owe somebody else something. The truth is, again, I want to hold your hand when I say that, you don't owe other people your well-being, like, period. And when let me know where it sound. When you start living this way, it can feel completely rebellious and selfish because you feel like, your body's going to want to revert back to patterns that it knows and understands. People pleasing, fawning, which is a stress response that I've talked about in another video, that's really prevalent within the autistic community. Your body's going to want to go back to what it knows. And so it takes consistency. Again, it takes that courage over time to say, no, this really does feel right for me. I need to speak up for myself. It's terrifying, but it is one of the most rewarding experiences and journeys you can go on of getting more in touch with what you want and what you need, and realizing that this is actually a beautiful investment that you're making, not only in yourself, but in your community.
Oh, yeah.
So, yes. And something that I like to do in our connection groups is just take a couple of deep breaths. A lot of people, I think we're looking for magic solutions to overwhelm or burnout, but sincerely ask yourself, when was the last time you stopped to just breathe? Because breathing is one of the most regulating practices for coming back to our body, which helps us get more in tune with what we actually want and what we actually need. So if you want to do that with me, I'm going to put my feet flat on the ground, so that can be helpful, but you can get in a comfortable position, whatever is good for you. Gently elongate your spine. So think about kind of someone gently lifting you up from the crown of your head towards the ceiling. And then I'm going to inhale through my nose. And then exhale deeply through my mouth. We're going to do that 2 more times. And when you exhale, just allow the weight of your body to sink into the surface beneath you. So inhale through your nose. Exhale fully and deeply. Last time, be gentle with yourself. Inhale. Exhale.
Can I be 1% more gentle with myself today?
As wild as it may sound, I truly believe that small acts like that, like reconnecting with your breath throughout the day, throughout the week, making small shifts to better protect your energy, your resources, those are groundbreaking, important, beautiful, revolutionary acts of kind resistance. And
yes, it's going to be terrifying.
So thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to join a connection group,
Mama, let's thank
kind
you.
of
You're
talk
the
about
best.
some of these things and interact more with other autistic adults in the community who have lots of beautiful lived experience, I'll put a link in the description, but you can go to momonthespectrum.life/community. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.
Hello.
What? Thank you for making that video. What? Thank you for making that video. A million hearts. I've never seen so many hearts on a YouTube comment. Some believe it is only great power that can hold evil in check. But that is not what I have found. It is the small everyday deeds of ordinary folk that keep the darkness at bay. Small acts of kindness and love. Yeah, J.R.R. Tolkien. I didn't adjust. I tried to adjust. I didn't adjust. Now, Mantar is upon us. Oh, that tea was too bitter for my stomach. Oh, oh, my stomach is talking back to me.
express delivery comes in as fast as an hour. That dude, I lost my bags again. This came faster than his run.
Did not disappoint with their responses, so I can't wait to share them with you. This is another unedited video.
I'm tired of her voice already. Unedited video, meaning
a deepfake is just a piece of media that makes a person do or say something that never happened using deep learning. Hence the word deepfake. The technology has been around since 2017, but it started going viral with this.
I'm gonna show you some magic. It's the real thing.
Except, of course, it's not the real thing. That's not Tom Cruise. It's Miles Fisher, and he's the co-founder of Metaphysic AI. And he deepfaked himself several times, fooling almost everyone. If you made a chart of realism from 0 to 100, this felt like a 90. And I was worried about how it could be abused with scams, especially as they put in more effort, time, and money to push the realism. And that's why I reached out to Metaphysic AI in 2022 to collaborate, and they agreed to deepfake me so I could warn people. But unfortunately, that's when I hit a roadblock, because I learned about the incredibly complicated technology behind Deep Tom Cruise. I would need multiple broadcast cameras, lights, I had to read a special script, and that's just to get the model trained. Then you have to act, and for a variety of reasons, I wasn't able to finish the video. The magic of Deep Tom Cruise was that they made a very complicated process just look really easy. But ultimately, I'm glad I didn't finish that video, because I was about to warn the world about this kind of hyper-realistic deepfake. And that's kind of what the world already is worried about, right? Because it captures our imagination. We can all imagine a world where this is the norm, that you really can't Cruise. I would need multiple used with scams, especially several times fooling almost everyone. If you make, of course, it's not the real thing. That I'm gonna show you. Never happened using deep learning. Hence the word deep fake. The technology has been around since 2017, but it started going viral with this.
I'm gonna show you some magic. It's the real thing.
Except, of course, it's not the real thing. That's
his
not
finger
Tom Cruise.
wiggled.
It's Miles Fisher, and he's the co-founder of Metaphysic AI, and he deepfaked himself several times, fooling almost everyone. If you made a chart of realism from 0 to 100, this felt like a 90, and I was worried about how it could be abused with scams, especially as they put in more effort, time, and money to push the realism. And that's why I reached out to Metaphysic AI in 2022.
Your finger can't wiggle right here.
So I could warn people. But unfortunately, that's when I hit a
I don't understand that. That looked obviously fake to me.
Behind Deep Tom Cruise, I would need multiple broadcast cameras, lights. I had to read a special script, and that's just to get the model trained. And then you have to act, and for a variety of reasons, I wasn't able to finish the video. The magic of Deep Tom Cruise was that they made a very complicated process just look really easy. But ultimately, I'm glad I didn't finish that video, because I was about to warn the world about this kind of hyper-realistic deepfake. And that's kind of what the world already is worried about, right? Because it captures our imagination. We can all imagine a world where this is the norm, that you really can't tell what's real or fake. And that's why every few years, a hyper-real deepfake celebrity goes viral, because it's a step towards that fear.
We're entering an era in which our enemies can make it look like anyone is saying anything at any point in time, like Jordan Peele.
But today I'm convinced there's a bigger risk, something that I spent very little time worrying about, which is actually the dumb deepfakes, the slop deepfakes, the obviously bad ones that were made on consumer apps. The kind of deepfakes you don't need professional equipment for, or a Hollywood team for. Early on, most people and myself just disregarded them because it just seemed like they were obviously fake. But the threat I didn't see coming was that curve we saw earlier flattening, and the low-effort deepfakes starting to get realistic enough to fool enough people. And that makes them far more dangerous than Deep Tom Cruise could ever be, because unlike him, anyone can make slop deepfakes easily and at scale. And of course, that's exactly what happened in 2025, literally the year of slop. That's when we all saw a tidal wave of content, and it's not a surprise why. AI tools had gotten cheap enough, easy enough, and just good enough to flood social media. And unfortunately, I think deepfakes are experiencing the same phenomenon. Just think about the difference between the two approaches. 4 years ago, I was set to collaborate with a world-leading deepfake company. I would need their help, their specialized technology, a custom training set, and a huge amount of data. But today, I deepfaked the intro you saw in the beginning with two $20 subscriptions by myself. I used the likeness of 3 presidents, the world's richest man, the world's most popular YouTuber and podcaster, and had them all say things they never said. And how long did it take me? 2 days, mostly because I'd never done it before. And you might say, well, it didn't look as real as Deep Tom Cruise, and that's absolutely true. But my question that I'm starting to ask is, does it need to be that real to fool enough people to be dangerous? How good is the average person anyways at telling the difference between AI fakes and the real thing? And this is where I realized I needed an expert's help. So I went to the Discord diner to find answers. Can you tell me your name and what it is you do?
My name is Hani Fareed. I'm a professor here at the University of California, Berkeley, where I specialize in digital forensics, misinformation. The first thing you want to ask yourself about the type of work that I do, which is building computational mathematical techniques to detect fake content, is do you need it? Can your visual system and your auditory system tell? We run in my lab here at UC Berkeley perceptual studies where we, for example, have people look at images. Half of them are real, half of them are fake. Hundreds and hundreds of participants, barely above chance. Images are through what we call the uncanny valley. They are now indistinguishable. Now, with voices, same thing. Real voices, fake voices, half real, half fake. We published the study just about a year ago, I think, maybe 9 months ago. Also, barely above chance. With video is interesting. So video is, we are doing this literally as we speak. We have a paper under review right now. I would say it's a little bit better than images, a little bit better than audio. Your accuracy, where chance is 50%, is about 70%, give or take. So slightly above chance. But again, in the best possible situation, in a lab setting where we're telling you what to do, they're not emotional videos, they're not partisanship, you don't have a prior belief. I would say within the next 12 months, full-blown video is going to be over, right? It's over.
Let me repeat that. Most people cannot tell fake audio. They can't tell fake pictures. And in 12 months, they probably won't be able to tell fake videos. What does this mean for us as a people world of media? That is what this investigation is about. We're going to look at the 3 biggest applications of deepfakes in your life. Specifically, scams, propaganda, and explicit media. Starting with scams, where deepfakes are used all of the time to impersonate people, whether it be a loved one, a celebrity, an influencer like Mr. Beast. They're usually deepfaked to sell a worthless product.
If you're watching this video,
It's like the anti-CD.
people who'll get an iPhone 15.
When the CDs came out, it was just like, oh man, it's just too much better than tapes. You don't have to rewind it. It's just that much better. Who didn't want CDs? People make the technology because they want the technology. I mean, that doesn't change. It's just another way of being silly. Another way of, transferring a lot of silliness. Pushing this, it just. Oh shit. What the fuck? That's nuts. Wow. Cool. I mean, how cool? Professional level cool. Professional level cool. I am a dog. I am Professor Doggy Dog. My math teacher looked like a, a chihuahua. Big bulging eyes. JoJo's live on Twitch. Live on Twitch. Who calls? Who calls? Who call? Who calls? Who calls when the who calls when the tree falls? Who calls when the man falls? Who calls? Who calls? Who calls? Who calls when the man falls? Who calls when the tool is misused? Who calls when the tools are misused? Who calls when the man falls? Oh. Talking about just fucking opening a goddamn door. Talking about just opening a door. Doesn't take very long. Oh no. You ain't got time for that. Back in the find hub. To find what's just right in arm's reach. The find hub is closer. Somehow the find hub is always closer than my phone.
15 Pro for just $2.
That Alpha Grind product that's all over TikTok, if you go to Amazon and you type in libido booster for men, you're going to find it right at the top.
Or in my case, cryptocurrency. But it's in moments like these that the best opportunities are born. Sometimes they're even selling companionship.
We'll get through this together, step by step. You're not alone, and I love you more than words can say.
But the goal every time is to leverage your trust in the deepfake identity and use it to make money. One of the most common schemes are live streams of President Trump or other famous CEOs deepfaked with a pretty simple scam.
If you want to come out stronger, you need to build your portfolio back up fast. And that QR code is your gateway. Minimum 0.1 BTC, 1 ETH, you send, you get double. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, of course, President Trump is not actually going to double your money, and scammers just steal whatever you said. But despite YouTube trying for years to shut this down, they keep popping up. These scammers keep bypassing restrictions all the time, and sadly, YouTube CEO even admits it's getting harder to detect what's real and what's AI generated, which he says is critical for detecting deep fakes. Now, because of this, YouTube in 2026 is rolling out new tools to help creators catch deep fakes. But even those solutions aren't perfect.
My name is Dr. Mikhail Varshavsky, better known as Dr. Mike. I'm a board-certified family medicine physician who makes content online focusing on busting health misinformation. We are fortunate enough that we're participating in a beta with the YouTube team on something called the likeness detection tool to potentially flag instances where people are misusing my image, my likeness to say things that I'm not saying.
Have you seen yourself deep faked in the wild yet?
I am deep faked in the wild every single day, numerous times a day, and we're trying our best to fight back against that, given certain platforms have tools to fight back against this. But then there are platforms where you have no say, and you just have to be okay with your image being misused.
Right. Dr. Mike highlights a problem. He's in the YouTube detection program, stopping deepfakes. But even if that were perfect, on other platforms, there's just nothing to help him.
And the problem in this space is you're only as good as the lowest common denominator. You can have 9 out of 10 of these platforms doing the right thing, and one of them not, and guess where the bad guy goes?
Well, of course, to the place who allows deep fakes. Now, I should mention, it's not always a real doctor, detective, or Mr. Beast that's being impersonated. Sometimes the deep fake isn't even of a real person, but the scam is some kind of bait and switch. Like when Corridor Digital showed how an AI modeling photo was used to... When Corridor Digital showed how
Bait and
an
switch,
AI modeling
baby.
photo was used to bait and switch people into buying a product that wasn't what they advertised. And this is actually a huge problem in e-commerce. The YouTuber Pleasant Green made a video about a trend of old people selling you handcrafted products, only to find out that all these old artisans are AI generated. And the real owners are selling cheap Chinese knockoffs, which look nothing like the product photos. That cute couple selling you hand-knit sweaters, they don't exist. But even if the primary use of deepfakes is impersonating real or fake people, sometimes it's just to make the scam more efficient or to be safer. Think about scam callers. Previously, they needed a big call center. Sometimes they would get raided. But nowadays, those same companies can replace their workers with 10 times as many AI callers who don't sleep, don't ask for a raise, sound like a human, and most importantly, do not blow the whistle on you, making the operation both more scalable and safer to run. As someone who busts scams all the time, by the way, I can tell you, it's usually the ex-wife, coworkers, contractors who unravel the whole thing. But if you need fewer people, your risk goes down. Just look at Checkpoint Research, a cybersecurity firm who recently uncovered malware called VoidLink. It was described as highly modular, advanced, with adaptive stealth, resembling the efforts of multiple teams of professionals, they said. Now, previously, all of that would be expensive and risky to maintain that headcount. But a few days later, Checkpoint Research discovered most of the code was authored almost entirely by artificial intelligence in less than a week, likely under the direction of a single individual. So AI is making sophisticated scamming possible for the first time in history as a solo operator. And it's much safer that way, with the tools for stealing credibility or just completely faking your identity easier than ever. And in the best of times, this would all represent a very serious threat. But we are also in a crime is legal era, making it hard to believe we're going to put up a fight against deepfake scams, especially when our government actually kind of loves deepfakes. Like, a lot. A lot. Which brings us to our next application, propaganda, which is not new, but deepfakes are kind of the evolution of it. Now, most people assume propaganda is Lara, making it hard to believe we're going to put up a fight against deepfake scams, especially when our government actually kind of loves deepfakes, like a lot. Which brings us to our next application, propaganda, which is not new, but deepfakes are kind of the evolution of it. Now, most people assume propaganda is brainwashing.
That's a funny image that you just flashed on the screen.
It could never affect you. The effects are much more complicated than you might realize. These videos of Venezuelans crying tears of joy after their leader was captured.
Oye, el dictador cayó. Finalmente. Estamos libres, estamos libres. Oye, el dictador cayó finalmente. Granadito, hermano, esto es real. Estamos libres. Mira, mira cómo está la gente. ¡Viva Venezuela libre! ¡Gracias, maestro! ¡Viva la libertad!
Now, these videos were used as evidence that America's raid on Maduro was actually a great thing, even for the people of Venezuela. But those clips, turns out, are not real. They're, of course, AI-generated propaganda. And we should ask, what was the goal and effect of those videos? You might think the goal is to convince us that Venezuelans are happy. And that clearly worked because these videos went viral. But what is the effect on people who didn't fall for it? People who saw it get debunked a day later? I would know. I was one of those people who happened to see a debunked video. And I brought it up with my buddy. We'd been talking about this situation. I asked where he heard Venezuelans liked our overthrow. He responded he was just reading Reddit, no objective data. I said a few fake AI videos were floating, hard to know what's real. He replied, yep, could be bots on Reddit as well. So think about this. Me and my friend are trying to just learn what's true, but we realize there's fake AI videos. Could be bots, astroturfing. What's propaganda's effect on us? I mean, honestly, it's just suspicion of everything.
And this is the real danger here, is that we cognitively check out because we give up. It's just too complicated. We don't know what to believe. We don't know what not to believe. So we're like, all right, okay. I give up, right? This is not a good outcome for a democracy. So here's what I can tell you about Venezuela. I must have seen a dozen videos of people celebrating and thanking Trump. Every single one of them was fake. The answer to these questions are always complicated and nuanced. Was there somebody on some street corner celebrating? 100% I believe that is to be the case, right? But I also think, in this particular case, figuring out what is happening in the world is incredibly complicated. Doing that in moments of military conflict is particularly complicated. And particularly when everybody wants an answer right now.
Yeah, he's right. And because everyone wants that answer now, propaganda is happy to step in. But the goal and effect of propaganda isn't just one thing. For some people, obviously, they made up their mind immediately before the facts came in. But for me and others who may have seen that debunk video, the effect was more suspicion. And that's funny because later, if you look at the polling way after the event, it turns out lots of Latin Americans and even Venezuelans were indeed happy about Maduro being removed. It's just that those videos were totally fake and not based on any kind of facts. So I'm not saying deepfake propaganda is always wrong and the opposite is always true. But propaganda is always fake and it makes real facts harder to find. In other words, it doesn't stop people from working to get informed. It just makes people feel like getting informed is too much work. This is honestly well understood in places like Russia who are more familiar with propaganda, but Westerners are far more naive. They think they could never fall for such cheap tricks.
I'm Russian. I grew up in Russia, and when people in the West talk about propaganda, I usually understand the theory they're describing, but emotionally it feels foreign, because what they imagine is very clean, very cinematic. Real propaganda is messier, more boring, more human. For a long time, I thought propaganda was something that only worked on people who weren't very smart. And that belief itself is exactly what propaganda relies on. Because propaganda doesn't need to make you stupid, it just needs to make you tired. When you live inside it, propaganda doesn't arrive as an event. There is no moment where you say, yes, now the propaganda has begun. The real version is quieter, more psychological, more human. Propaganda doesn't shout at you until you believe. It talks until you're too tired to care, and that's why it works.
Yeah, he's right. And now imagine what happens when slop deepfakes allow propaganda to be churned out at scale. To be clear, this isn't something that's going to happen in the future. It's already happening. Deepfakes were deployed in the Russian-Ukraine conflict, Israel-Gaza, fake war videos, fake speeches. Deepfakes are everywhere. everywhere. People even disagree about which ones are the deepfakes. And it's only getting harder to spot.